Welcome to the Natural Genius podcast. We're here to help you tap into your natural genius. Let's go. Hamish Curry introduced me to Christian, who I'm looking forward to meeting. He sounds like a fabulous collaborator. In our short correspondence so far, he's had a lightness of being and a playfulness and a curiosity that is lovely to be around. Hamish introduced me to Christian as the person that helped to motivate him to organise his next adventure, walking around Milford Sound with his brother in New Zealand. It sounds like Christian's playfulness and excitement of life is something that is wonderful to be around and obviously motivating. I'm very much looking forward to him. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Christian, welcome to the Natural Genius podcast.
Thank you, Sam. What an interesting concept. I am curious, excited, nervous, very open. Who knows where this is going to go, but it feels great to be here.
And as an introduction, when I was thinking about you and this conversation yesterday, this beautiful water bird flew overhead. It's nice to bring the outside into a conversation like this.
I love that.
When I look at your background and your portfolio career, as we seem to call them these days, you've been fortunate enough or driven enough to have different chapters, and maybe it's a lot of curiosity that comes into it. I wonder what might compel you to have a slight non-conformity to the way that you carry yourself with work or the different chapters, and even talking into what you're experiencing at the moment, what drives you or how you come to be doing what you're doing next.
Yeah, that's such an interesting question. I love that was driving your curiosity. I definitely have never considered myself a rebel or a non-conformist. And I'm 44, so I'm very much embracing this middle-aged period of my life where I'm comfortable enough with who I am, things that I can change, and I'm accepting the things that I can't change about myself. And one of those things is that compulsion or intuition, maybe, I don't know the right way to describe this, drives what I do. So passion, when it's there, fuels what I do, and when it's not there, it compels me to change course. That's been the case throughout my career, and I think as a young person, I learnt this. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, where I spent time doing things and being things that weren't authentic. And I was able to do that for a while, but I paid, and there were tipping points. There were moments, particularly for me when I was a young architect. So this is late 2009, early 2010, working for the world's biggest design firm, AECOM, don't mind naming them. And the GFC had hit our office, and 30% of our office was made redundant overnight. I was also in a relationship that broke up. My grandfather had passed away, and suddenly, like a veil was taken away from my eyes, and I could see that this wasn't consistent with who I was, working for this multinational corporation. And I quit and I traveled, and that was scary and courageous, and I opened myself up to serendipity. I spent a lot of time, I spent about 4 months traveling around the world. A volcano erupted in Iceland. I felt my way into my next career move, which was taking design from architecture and moving into design thinking. It's been my first career pivot. And those transitions, have been easier when I was single and I was young. Now I'm a dad. I've got 2 daughters. I'm going through one of those at the moment. I feel the compulsion to change what I'm doing. It's a lot harder because I have dependents, and I'm in the mud, I guess, which is fair to say, but not in a rebellious way, I guess. Put it that way, Sam. It's not intentional. It's almost like change happens twice. It happens unconsciously, and then it happens consciously and intentionally, for me, at least.
Yeah, I must admit to the word or the sort of idea of non-conformity, it sort of surprised me as a question to be asking you
Mm,
first. And you and I are similar beings in that uh, when the energy dissipates, well, actually, I shouldn't put words into your mouth, but I know that for me in my career, when the energy is dissipated, and often it's been about knowledge, when I'm not learning, when I don't feel like I'm learning enough, then it's hard to stay around.
yeah,
And maybe that's part of the non-conformity that then I've moved, and many people might stay and sort of dig deep and keep going. But I've been very fortunate that that drive has led to amazing experiences, which is how you and
yeah,
I come to know each other today. So
yeah.
will you describe to me that you're on a knowledge work career break / sabbatical, and all the power to you. How exciting. Do you have any goals for that, or do you have any hopes or aspirations around this time that you're going through at the moment?
Well, would you like to unpack how I've come to that point a little bit?
Let's.
Because it doesn't feel, I'll tell you right now, it doesn't feel exciting yet. It doesn't feel necessarily empowering.
Is that right?
It's felt very scary for me to say that. You're the second person actually I've used those words with this week. Yeah. And I spoke to somebody else in my professional circles on Monday using those words, and it was just like, you whisper it at first and you're like, is that what I'm doing? Is that what I'm doing? So it's actually been over 3 years in the making. And I've coached people. I'm sure you do some form of coaching.
Indeed.
Or all your clients, you're probably doing some coaching in some way as well. And when you're guiding people through change, it's much easier when it's somebody else. But you can look back and often see the decision that you eventually make. The writing was on the wall. 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, relationships, jobs, financial decisions, all those things. Like I say, there's sort of two changes that happen. There's the one that happens unconsciously and the one that when we finally accept the choice that we're making. So about, it was 3 years to the day. This is a bit of a sad story, so let's strap in a little bit, but there is an empowering kind of side to it. About 3 years,
ready.
about 3 years ago to the day, it was on Monday, it was the anniversary of my best friend Matthew Schneider's passing. And Matt died as a 39-year-old father of three at the height of his career. So very successful town planner, but eventually became a thought leader on the Gold Coast where I live now. And had a huge part to play in the culture and the development of the Gold Coast. A hugely professional, hardworking man, very public, very active in his professional world. And for me, his diagnosis in the sort of 9 months prior to his passing, and the experience that I went through sharing that time with him and seeing, I guess, the role that his work played and the role that his identity as a professional played, and then what he was going to lose in terms of as a father of his kids. Now, this is my experience, because I'm not sharing any judgment about how he lived his life, but for me, something was changing within me where I started to see the value of what we do,
yes,
and who we are, and the roles that we take on, and the role of ego and success and status and all of those things in my own work. So let's talk about myself, because that's my experience. And so something changed for me when Matt went through his decline and he passed away in January. Something had changed for me professionally, where I've got young kids. So I had a daughter a couple of, literally a month before Matt passed away. So a new life, 5-year-old daughter as well. And my priorities changed. And what was really interesting at the end of 2023, so I passed away at the start of 2023, I had 3 of my longest term, profitable, rewarding, successful clients get in touch with me all around the same time to say that they wouldn't be renewing these year-on-year contracts that we've been running, despite the fact that these projects had been, on all metrics year-on-year improving. I take a lot of pride in my work. I have a lot of passion aligned with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so this was the kind of early signs of like something's shifting for me here. Now, it's taken me nearly 3 years to accept that. But I've gone through a rapid, I guess, like lifestyle change where I have been in many ways, like, I hate this saying, but the sage on the stage, a so-called expert. I have performed, my role has been performative. I've been striving. I've been hustling. I've been trying to make money to provide for my family. And something has changed inside of me. We've moved house as well. We've changed our lifestyle. I've gone from being on a big wage to on the minimum wage in the last 12 months, 18 months as well. So we've gone through a rapid, I guess, transformation. And on the other side of that now is I'm starting to accept that I am not my job. I don't need success. My priority is supporting my daughters, and my world is a lot smaller at the moment. There's no greater role for me than to provide a safe environment for my family, to hold for them to discover themselves, to explore the world and develop the capacities to be thriving citizens. Like, that's, to me, is where my heart is at the moment. And this change has kind of taken me by surprise, but I'm accepting it now. And my wife, we've swapped jobs as well. My wife is now the primary breadwinner, and I am being and not doing, I guess, as much.
And learning how to breathe. Towards the end of what you were just saying, then I was hearing the learning how to.
Yeah, well, I mean, this has been a grieving process, obviously, because losing somebody close to us, and it wasn't the simplest of relationships I had with Matt as well, and grief has its own timeline. But there's also a grief, and talking about the non-conformity aspect, Sam, of like being a professional male, white male, and I'm not going to get any sympathy for this because I have far more compassion to the mums who put their careers on hold to raise a family as well. But feeling in society that I'm going against the grain so much in the last 12 months, being the dad that drops my daughter off at school, trying to organise play dates with other mums, parents not feeling safe with a man around their kids, and me just feeling like, what is my value in society if I'm not making money, if I'm not having an impact? The kind of peers that we have on LinkedIn where we're talking about do lectures and hub in Melbourne and this sort of period like of the early 2010s where it was all about impact and hockey stick growth, and this is what I've grown up with in my professional pedigree as well. And so to kind of go against that, not conform to that narrative of I should be hustling, I should be sacrificing the best years of my daughter's life, and I'm just not willing to do that now because I've seen firsthand what my mates' kids now miss out on. I dropped my daughter at school on Monday and she needed me to be there while she cried, and I hugged her, and Matt's daughter goes to the same school now, and it just broke my heart to know that she doesn't have her dad to be there.
I can imagine. There is so much in that, Christian. You've got so much to be proud of, and also so much that you just described in what you're dealing with or what you've been dealing with. And I think that there is definitely that masculine drive to protect and provide, and also that non-conformity. You reminded me of, I've been an auntie for a lot of my adult life, and a single auntie oftentimes, and running my own business and doing entrepreneurial things. and then being curious enough about crypto and AI. And last year I flew to Malaysia and lived on an island with a whole lot of, somebody called it the nerd hotel. And maybe that's mid-career, because I've decided that the way I pass away is in my 90s on skis having a heart attack. So I'm probably about mid-age now. And that feeling that you have, I'm so sorry to hear about people not feeling comfortable about having a man around their children. That just sort of breaks my heart a little bit. But that sort of feeling of not playing the usual role model or the usual person in society, I think that it builds strength and character. It's like kind of helping you and I have even stronger backbone.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know this intellectually, that this period of time has been, I have a growth mindset, and I really have. My whole life I've been driven to learn and hungry to grow and evolve and, let go of what doesn't serve me. So I get all that intellectually, and then been a lot of just like spinning my wheels in the mud, in the letting go of the identity. And I don't know if you've come across this concept, Sam, but I was taught this principle, I guess you'd call it, called the I am effect. And essentially this is the I am statements that we say about ourselves that are beliefs. So the idea with this is that the I is the observer. We'll get a bit woo-woo. It's not really woo-woo. It's, plenty of knowledge traditions talk about this, the observer, right? So there's the eternal self that is timeless and ageless and eternal, and it's consciousness, whatever you want to call it, and it's watching. It's the witness to everything that's going on. And then the am is the parts of ourself and our behavior that we identify with. So it's a kind of a union between ego and spirit, if you want. And when those I am statements are true and empowering, they serve our growth. When they're negative and limiting, then they are self-sabotaging. And really, like, that principle at least has been at play for me, where I've been able to, I guess, zoom out and see that I am not a facilitator. I am not even a father. I'm not even a partner, but I am parenting, or how do I explain this so that it's there have been, what resonated when you said you're like in Malaysia on the Nerd Island, and I've had some fantastic, like, crazy traveling experiences, and I'm not doing that kind of stuff right now. My life is really small, and I've come to some peace with that, because I realize that the me that has been part of all those experiences, the me that was has been the traveler, and the me that is the father, is the same me. So it's Christian. I'm Christian having a dad experience at the moment.
Yes.
And I'm Christian having a low income experience at the moment. But I just show up in those environments and be, and it's still authentic and it's still consistent. That's I guess the peaceful way to deal with change for me, is just that don't get too attached to it, like it's all impermanent, it's all subject to change, and I'm going to be okay whether I'm poor. I'll just be Christian being poor. I'll be Christian being wealthy. I'll be Christian being spontaneous and a traveler,
facilitating, or being an architect, or being a dad, or...
Now, the problem is, of course, when other people, we need to latch on to something like, so Sam, what are you doing at the moment? Like, what? I thought you were a CEO. I thought you were, like, when I'm in Brisbane, people say, you still doing architecture, or you think you'll go back to architecture one day? And I was like,
that's a while.
It's been 16 years since I've practiced. So maybe, but no, And it's understandable because like the world is confusing. Our brain likes order and sense and to put people in holes. So I get that, you know.
Yeah. And Christian, in our small bit of communication, which has got both of us feeling like we wished we'd known it. Well, it's definitely had me.
Yes, that's definitely
for longer. One of the things that has been completely joyful and has rung through our communication, both with Hamish introducing us and email since, is your lightness of being, your ease, your playfulness, and your curiosity and openness. And I wonder, it had me think, no wonder you've been successful and you'll be successful in the future, because that lightness of being is so attractive, because we're surrounded by so much fear and so many other things. But when somebody has that, like, don't get me wrong, I can totally sense the weight of grief and the change, and that's to be oh God, sorry, usual word, processed. But so I can definitely feel that with you. But I remember seeing a talk one time by an amazing chef who had an amputated arm, and he talked about how after amputation you come back to the same baseline of your sort of personality, or how upbeat or sort of downtrodden you might be in life. Mm-hmm. And he was definitely a glass half full, upbeat kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he said that's the kind of model around having amputation. And I think that if you have that lightness of being, people are attracted to it, especially in this time. So one of the many things that will help you through this change, I dare say.
Thank you. That means a lot to me, Sam. And I'm sure you and anyone who's listening, when you're having those periods of darkness or doubt or hopelessness, it is the people around you that hold a mirror up to you and remind you of who you are, you know. And these situations are temporary, but they serve. And like you said earlier, it's the backbone, the resilience. And found as well, just the people that I meet that I am drawn to and that I feel are kind of closest with at this point in my life have that lightness and that softness, and it's earned as well. It's not...
You're so on point. It's exactly what was coming to mind in my mind.
Yeah. There's the other side of tragedy that gives a sense of calm, you know, of that feeling of I've got this and I can handle anything. You know, that's really the gift. I have a gorgeous, I shouldn't say gorgeous now because he's twice as high as me and twice as wide as me, and he's very intelligent and strong. My nephew, Ethan, when I was going through a bit of a period of grief, I guess, and he coined a term, collateral beauty. And this was a kind of phenomena that I came across separately, actually. I didn't want to kind of dwell on my cancer story so much, but I had a very similar story with another close friend of mine a few years before Matt passed away. And so it wasn't my first encounter with bowel cancer with a friend. And I was living in Melbourne at the time, and I was visiting him at the Royal Melbourne Hospital and catching the tram. It was an autumn morning, and I was just like, you know, he was declining rapidly, and I was looking at the window. It's funny you mentioned birds at the start of this as well. And I was just like seeing the sun glisten through the trees, and a bird on the tram lines just like singing and sparkling in the sun. And my heart just dropped, and I'm like, that's so beautiful, you know, like I couldn't hold all the beauty. And this is the kind of collateral beauty that happens when we're being taken to the depths of our capacity to feel sadness, and then it opens us up, you know, it just cracks our heart open. And then the beauty that also presents. That's the gift, I guess.
If something in this conversation lit you up, there's a signal in that. If you want help tuning your own signal into a clear next move, start with a 3-minute signal check-in at naturalgenius.com.au. And if you want focused support, book a signal lab and we'll work through it together. Now back to the Natural Genius. I've got a real favourite story. I've had Nephews Week at Mount Hossam, taking my youngest nephew skiing each year. And one time I looked across the mountain and I saw this great skier and I was like, oh, he's a great skier. And then I was like, oh, that's my nephew. He's a great skier. And it's moments like that maybe we, as humans, we find what is important to us as individuals. And you're lucky enough to be getting that with your daughters, with your wife, with your family, and even through the grieving process and the cancer journeys that seem to be in our lives at the moment, to be able to be in those processes, to see someone off and to listen and to, I was lucky enough to provide mango, one of my auntie's favourite foods, to her as she was passing away. And as you say, grief has its own timeline. To look back without regret on those things and to just deepen me as a human being, because I've been able to be through those processes, is very special. I'm going to lighten up this conversation with asking you to tell me about the bookshelves behind you, because before we hit record, you were saying that you found those bookshelves on Marketplace, and finally the vinyl that means something to you is on display. Could you tell us a little bit about your love of vinyl and listening slow?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all just kind of converging into a simple life and what makes a good life. This is the stripping away of the stuff that doesn't matter to me as well. And there is a saying that I can't remember who the philosopher is, but that perfection isn't achieved when there's nothing more to add, but when there's nothing left to take away.
Yes, I love that one.
That's really the kind of simplification. We've recently moved from the southern end of the Gold Coast, where we lived for 7 years. We bought just before COVID. We were planning to build a house, and the market just went crazy. Everyone from Victoria and Sydney moved to that area, and it became just like incompatible with who we were becoming as well. We're now living in Tambourine Mountain, which is known as the island in the sky. We have our own tank water and septic. There's no street lights. It's very peaceful and quiet, and we're living a simple life. And what, because to segue to these records and the bookshelf behind me, I did strategically position myself here as a little nod to my dear friend Hamish, because he tagged me to be in this podcast, and so I thank him for that. And also just to kind of point to that comment that you were saying about the depths of friendships where you do when you share these challenges, and to be at this age in my life where friendships are about quality and not quantity now. And those, there's a reason and a season for different connections, and then those that endure and that have longevity and have a history take on so much more value. So I was down at Hamish's place a few months ago in Melbourne. Hamish and Eddie Harron and I spent a night in his lounge room. He's a CD guy, so he's pretty old school as well. And we listened to CDs all night. He also played my new CD. So one of the kind of collateral beauty sides of this grieving process is I've unlocked all of this musical creativity that's been latent in recent years as I've been doing sensible work. And I've been writing and recording pretty prolifically. And so Hamish gave that a spin, which was a real treat hearing that in you've seen his stereo system. Obviously.
I have. But I'm a bit shocked. Tell me about what musical instrument. Is it what vocal? Tell me more.
Vocals, guitar, and anything else that I can imagine and play. So I did record a whole album, played everything on an album in the first part of my career. And my latest EP, Clean Break, you can see the theme around that. I played a lot of the instruments on that as well. So,
oh, please,
yeah.
we've got to put the link to that in the show
Sure.
notes.
Still had nothing to sell in this call, but it's not making me any money, Sam.
We found something.
The day I make money out of music is the day I'll do music full time. I think that's the dream. But anyway, yeah. So these records have been in storage for the last 5 years, and as I said, like being, taking a big pay cut. My wife's been our primary breadwinner in the last 12 months. We've had a massive sort of lifestyle change, and we've come to terms with that. And what that's led to is more creativity and getting clearer on how much is enough. What enough looks like. And I think this is something all of us can benefit from, is realizing that we don't need what we think we need. So much of what we have are wants, and it actually doesn't serve us. And for us, we've been very frugal. We've sort of built this house out with secondhand things on Marketplace that I've upcycled. This bookshelf I bought for $50. And spent a couple of months modifying it and shrinking it down, a little joinery project for myself, and mounted it to the wall. Got my records out, got them high enough that my 2 daughters can't reach them as well. One of the advantages, so they're safe and protected. And I've killed my Spotify subscription. We bought a DVD player over Christmas as well, and we're borrowing DVDs from the library. Intentionally watching movies. My wife and I have date nights where we watch movies.
Oh, great.
So I don't know, maybe this makes me sound like a technophobe or something, but just slowing down, enjoying things. And boy, there's pleasure in just enjoying the total work of art, the liner notes, the album artwork, the smell, the little crackle that you get when you drop the needle before the music starts. It's great. So Hamish will love it. If only Hamish loves this part of our conversation, then I'm happy with that.
Me too. Tell me, how do you best enjoy spreading love and good humour?
There's 3 people that are my number one priorities in terms of, and I should say, like, my number one priority is my wife, and showing up in that relationship. That's the hardest relationship and the most rewarding relationship that I've ever had in my life, because if anyone knows, what it's like to be with somebody for a long period of time, this happens in friendships as well, but you don't just organically grow together. And because we are, I guess, intentional people, we have had periods where we've had to qualify and opt in again, and we've had challenges and trials, and like we were saying earlier, these make you stronger. And but showing up with love when it's really hard, when you're sick of the sight of the person, when familiarity breeds contempt, when the kids are just intense and you feel like you're going to explode, and then taking the kind route, like that's really the hardest thing. We're going through a big transition with our girls, starting at a new school and, saying goodbye to all their old friends in Currumbin as well. So showing up with love and playfulness and lightness as well. Had an experience yesterday where my daughter Harriet, we needed to leave for school. It was her second day of school, and her headband broke, and she ran back into her bedroom and she ripped it off, ripped her school clothes off, screamed into a pillow, which is something we've workshopped as a way to let good feelings out, normal feelings out. And she refused to go to school. And I was looking at the clock, had my daughter Esther outside as well. I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, it seemed like this situation was not going to resolve itself. I said to her, I mean, this work is harder than facilitating complex groups, It's like the problem solving and the feeling into it. But in terms of how to show it with love and kindness and lightness as well, I said to her, it's very understandable that you're having these feelings. It's all very new. It feels intense. It's a big change. And my job is to keep you safe and healthy. It's a healthy thing for you to go to school. So you are going to go to school today, but I'm going to give you 5 minutes to feel what you're feeling. I'm going to give you some space, and then we're going to get ready and go to school. And she said, no. And then I closed the door. I put on K-pop Demon Hunters. I do still have a Bluetooth connection here, I should say.
Oh, Dad of the Year, K-pop Demon Hunters, let's go.
And I started a little dance party with Esther, my 3-year-old, and we danced and partied and shook out the juju. And Harriet poked her head out of this door here, and she looked with curiosity, and then she saw Esther giggling and she laughed, and then we had a big dance party, and then we said, okay, we're going to finish this song. We're going to get ready for school. Okay. I'm like, yep. And gave her a big hug, and it was all good. Those 3 people. And then, you know, my life is small at the moment. It really is like showing up in these sort of moments and just feeling open and loving. So that's kind of what feel like I'm giving you at the moment, Sam. I'm feeling your open connection and showing up with the people that I meet with as much kindness and love as I can.
I hope that the majority of times when those sorts of challenges turn up, the dance party equivalent always happens. So awesome.
Things, you know, change so quickly with kids. And I find with my young kids that so much of my fixed mindset at limiting me at times is like, I can't see a way forward. This is going to be like this forever. You know, I can't see how this situation is going to change. And then it changes. My wife and I, when our girls were young, my first daughter, Harriet, was young, we'd say, oh, she's turned a corner. Awesome. And then 2 minutes later, oh no, she's turned another corner. Oh no, now she's turned another corner. And it's like the corners are constantly being turned.
Oh, I love that. Power of distraction, I learned, is a good one. The other thing I didn't expect to learn as an auntie was when I used to take a little one into the hills, he never wanted to turn around. So I always had to do the loop walks rather than the straight walks. Like, could never wanted to turn around, wanted to just keep on going. So I learned to get out the maps prior to and go, okay, this needs to be a horseshoe or a loop. Back to the car.
Come up to Tambourine Mountain, Sam, and I'll take you some of the most beautiful loops you'll come across. We have up here. We worked out before this conversation, before we hit record, that we both knew Zana, and she introduced me to the amazing national parks west of the Goldie, and goodness, they are absolutely outstanding. So all the yeses to your invitation. Thank you. Let's go walking. The name of your podcast as well. It's great. Like it's about our nature, you know. I really believe that we're all inherently good. You know, our nature is good. It's life-giving. It moves toward the light, and so much of that kind of like stripping away to get back into that true nature. That's part of what's drawn us to being close to nature here as well.
To honour the uniqueness of each of us seems important. It's always been important to me. I think that if you've done coaching work as well, and the facilitation work and the impact and ripple effects that you've created, that's possibly also honouring the individual and collective contributions that is always so impressive.
Yeah. And I mean, I was also thinking this, how much, like, this sounds like a parenting podcast with what I'm talking about, but the parallels with the kind of holding space for grown-ups and for groups as well. And we don't change, really. We are all scared little kids inside in some way, and we have needs, and we feel big feelings, and we feel anxiety during transitions, and there's social awkwardness when we arrive in new settings, all of that stuff. It's very applicable. Like, it's actually very transferable. So for anyone in that space at the moment on a career break and wondering, like, if they're ever going to get back into the workforce or how they can, you know, contribute, like, this work is important work that you're doing, and there's a place for it in the corporate world when your time comes as well, I imagine.
Absolutely. And I think that through the many different corporate incarnations that I've had, the different stakeholder groups or the different groups from companies I've worked in or consulted to, I love their curiosity with my next project and their engagement. I just think that's so cool, because we need, but definitely for the next generation, role models that can make us curious.
Yeah.
And I quite liked having a like from young family members when I started this podcast. I felt that was quite the moment.
I think that's fantastic. I know, because it is really an uncertain world, and I think about this a lot. In my work in the past, I'm going to talk about now, I have prioritized working with children and young people for that reason, because we can't control the uncertainty, but we can control how we respond to the uncertainty. So much of what I care about is supporting the next generation to be able to navigate that uncertainty with confidence, with resilience, to know that we can handle whatever comes. And this is all external stuff, and there is a part of us unchanging that can be adaptive and agile, and go with the flow, and use intuition and curiosity to move forward. So
I love that.
Yep.
I love how you said before, this is turning into a parenting episode. I've got a framework for preparing for these episodes, but I don't have an expectation about how the conversation goes. I'll give you a choice of 3 questions that have come to mind for the last ones. There's 2 optional and 1 is a definite. Either your favourite thing about your kids, and or what you're most proud of through your career, the things that you achieved or the moments that just made you so delighted. And then the final one that's not optional is, what mischief are we going to get up to for Hamish Curry next?
I love, and I shouldn't say, no, I won't say hate, but I love, and it confounds me as well, is just how unique, talking about, the nature, just how unique, weird, quirky, surprising my 2 daughters are, and who I thought I'd be as a father. Yeah.
How gorgeous.
It would be. And I'm like, that's not me, and that's not your mum. And like, who are you? And that's amazing. So that's it. It's their, natural genius, and that I just love. These little like fires that have burnt from day dot. And the cool thing is, like, you're in their presence and you're like, oh, there you are, you. And like, you are you, and who are you? It's amazing. They're just weird and wonderful.
I love it. And I love the words, the descriptors you used around fire and the surprise.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. You and your daughter sometimes. You and your wife sometimes.
With Harriet, our daughter, we didn't find out her gender before she was born, and she was boisterous and wild in the womb, and we were certain she was going to be a boy. And then she came out, and her legs were wide apart, and I was like, oh, okay. And so weirdly, we were going to call her Wilco, after my favorite band, and if she was a boy. And Wilco is short for will comply, that term. And instead, longer story, but we intuitively came up with the name Harriet after her being around for 3 days. It just came to us in a moment of genius. And we later found out that Harriet means ruler of the house, the kind of origin of the term. So we wanted a compliant child, and we had a ruler of the house, and that's her personality in a nutshell. But
I asked you about non-conformity at the start. Compliance, conformity.
Yeah.
Yes, please keep going.
Okay, the proudest. There's a few, and you can see also that, like, I've been through a bit of a journey with my career where 2 things come to mind, which is that, like, putting it into perspective, at the end of the day, what we work on in the world and the projects, they matter to the extent that they leave people feeling better than they were before we arrived. That feeling of like, have I been life-giving in the work that I've done, and do people feel better as a result of the work that I've done? That to me is the stuff that matters the most. The accolades, the prizes, the awards, all that stuff I've seen with the passing of my mate, it fades very quickly. It really does. And what we remember about people is the way that we feel about them. So my proudest projects have been I worked on a co-design program in the outer east of Victoria with the Children and Young People Area Partnership at the time. It was an out-of-home care program where we got stakeholders together over 3 months to co-design solutions to a better out-of-home care transition. And I was the facilitator. We had young people with a lived experience of the out-of-home care system who'd been through trauma. We had police officers, child protection, education people, pastors, teachers, you name it, were involved in this program. And then a wider stakeholder group who came for a showcase. And then this group continued to meet once I left the program for months after, and went on to advocate for changing the age of leaving care. And for me, it was that I was able to create a space, a psychological space, like an architect creates a space for people to feel safe, to come together and collaborate and problem solve and take agency for their shared problems. And so that was a particularly proud project as well. There's a lot of sadness in that system as well, but that was a very positive experience.
So many ripple effects, I can imagine.
Yeah, and those people I'm still in touch with, and those relationships last a long time, I think.
Oh, brilliant. And then the fun one.
Yeah, I know what I'm going to do with Hamish. I'm just going to be his travel agent, because I'm planning his next life-changing trip. Because
we better give the context. Did you say to Hamish that you wouldn't be friends with him anymore until, if the next time you talked, he hadn't booked his Milford Sound trip?
Let's not let the truth stand in the way of a good story. I'm going to
lock
it
in. Okay, great.
Yeah. And I think I enforced that for 2 weeks. I just ghosted him until I heard that he locked it in. And it was very conditional. My love for Hamish is very conditional on him doing what I ask him to do. So, yes, he's still my friend, hanging by a thread. He's followed my rules.
By a thread, as long as he follows your new career direction of being a travel agent.
Yeah, just obviously
maybe,
that sucks.
Maybe there's something in that. You're going to be a travel agent.
Yeah, maybe I can sell like any frustrated dudes in my demographic. If you need the enforcer, because I'm so aggressive and masculine, if you need the enforcer just to tell you what to do, give me a call, 1-800.
Enforcer. Christian, you are a delight. I don't know whether it's a travel agent. I think it might be something like the inspiration to adventure or something like that. It's a very important role. Yeah. I did love Hamish's reaction to it, and also I remember at his 50th that I can't remember the exercise, but we all had to write, I think it was something about his next adventure or on a card. And I saw somebody who has achieved a hell of a lot in life put Kilimanjaro on the card. So maybe you should encourage him to do that.
Are you a hiker, Sam? Sammy, are you?
Sometimes, yeah. Beg your pardon? Yeah, just loops. I'm just a looping hiker. With a dear friend in Bhutan, I tried trail running. This was quite a while ago, and I absolutely loved it. And I just couldn't believe that
in Bhutan as well.
Yeah, so this is from Tiger's Nest, the beautiful temple that is in most of the it's like the first image that you often see of tourism to Bhutan. And we trail ran down from that. But one of the things that I loved about Bhutan is it was like somebody had been passed in the national park or the equivalent with brooms, and the landscape gardeners had been there before us. They hadn't, but it was just like the most beautifully designed and pristine places. And so trail running down a track is like the steps and everything were pretty clear from what I remember. And it was a dear friend of mine and the 3 guides, I think, young guys that just ran with us. So it was this bunch of 5 of us running. Anyway, that's a long story to you. Short question of do I hike?
For anyone who's figuring out this Hamish thread with the hike as well is I pushed Hamish to book in a hike with his brother in New Zealand that they've had on their bucket list forever. And he these sort of barriers that we put in front of ourselves that we can't really see. And the benefit of having a trusted friend or someone just to say, do it. And so that was also good for me because I'd similarly, like I've done a lot of hiking. I lived in Iceland for a while until 2014, and I've done big hikes with my wife before we were married and had kids. And there's a part of me that just like that feeling of awe and getting outside of yourself and just being, one with something bigger than yourself, very powerful. And so reconnecting to that, I ended up doing a multi-day hike with one of my best friends from Melbourne last year as well. So thank you, Hamish. You inspired me to do that as well.
And you surrounded the day hikes that you can do in the national parks near you are just... Yeah. I just had such great times there with friends.
Oh, just a little product placement as well as my new Innovate trail running shoes that I bought this week. So I'm getting back into trail running. I was a surfer for 6 years, and now I'm getting back to my roots as a runner.
I'm going to wrap us up there, Christian. I have so appreciated your time. What a divine first meeting, and here's to bushwalking and other Hamish Curry mischief in the future.
Thanks so much, Sammy, and thanks for creating this space. I love the way you've approached this podcast and just the openness you've had. I felt really compelled to talk to you, and I'm glad I did. It's nothing, like I said, nothing to sell. It's just putting into words what hopefully other people are feeling at certain times in their life about transition and what really matters. So thanks for creating that space and giving me a chance to share my story.
I look forward to having you back on, actually, Christian, because we'll all want to know what's happened. Thanks for listening to the Natural Genius podcast. Please share this with anyone who came to mind and visit us at naturalgenius.com.au. Thanks so much.